Good evening. Ambassador of Czech Republic to Armenia, Petr Pírunčík, will be doing an interview with the public TV tonight. Mr. Pírunčík, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are known for wearing a carnation in your breast pocket. Why have you changed it to a lily? What does it symbolize?
I hope that I am well known for wearing a flower in my lapel.
Carnation mostly.
Carnations are just one type of a flower, the best type of a flower. I love carnations and they are probably my favorite, but I obviously use other flowers as well. So there are other good flowers other than carnations.
What does this wearing a flower symbolize and how well is it received in the Armenian society?
Since you're asking, I guess that it is, and you're asking with a smile, I guess this is seen as something positive. And about the meaning, there's really no special meaning. It's a tradition that was almost lost, almost forgotten. If you came to some European cities at least, 100 years ago, there would be many men wearing flowers in their jackets and lapels. But we forgot about this tradition and now you almost don't see it. You see it at weddings. So some people affiliate a flower in a jacket that we call the boutonnière with the wedding, but it's not just about wedding. It's a manly tradition that I'm trying to restore.
Reincarnate.
Exactly.
About politics, in commemoration of the 30 years of diplomatic relations between Czechia and Armenia, recently Prime Minister Pashinyan visited Czech Republic. A joint statement was made with the Prime Minister of Czechia. Agreements were reached. Is this a milestone in Czech Armenian relations? I
don't know whether it is a milestone. What it is a success. It was a success. It was an official visit. That visit was postponed. It was supposed to happen already before, but then COVID came and like other reasons made it being postponed. And it was actually one of the first official visits that the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, Mr. Petr Fiala, accepted or welcomed in Prague, and it was the very first official visit that came, or an official visitor that came to the Prague Castle and was greeted by the new president of Czechia, Mr. Petr Pavel. Mr. Pashinyan, besides talking to these two, the president and the prime minister, he saw and talked to the speakers of both chambers of the parliament. So he saw and talked to and was received by all highest officials, all highest representatives of the Czech Republic. And this is certainly something that is important. And if we call it a milestone or not, that is not important. But that visit was important for sure.
And you believe it's going to translate into practical results, obviously?
Yes, I mean, we all believe that. Both sides believe that it was not just a visit, but there was a content to it. You already mentioned the joint statement, but there was more to it. There was a business forum on the margins of the official visit held in Prague. There was the meeting of the Intergovernmental Commission, which is a terrible term for basically representatives of various ministries from Armenia and from the Czech Republic speaking together about joint projects. So some agreements and some plans were set, and I certainly believe that they will be implemented, and I will do my best to contribute to that.
Mr. Pirunčik, Czech Republic has played an important role in the deployment of the EU mission along Armenia-Azerbaijan border. However, tension remains high in the region, and Baku threatens to use force and uses force occasionally. The Security Council Secretary expressed Armenia's willingness to host an expanded EU mission on the border. Is the Czech Republic committed to help bring it to pass?
So, first of all, the EU monitoring mission, the EU mission in Armenia, is a success. We hear it from the Armenian side, the Armenian government, and just ordinary Armenians actually welcome that there are observers on the Armenian side of the borders. There are up to 100 people, out of which 7 people are from the Czech Republic. So there are 7 Czechs, and you see that this is a significant contribution of the Czech Republic, which we are happy about, actually. And you asked about the expansion of that mission. I mean, any expansion needs to be agreed by the countries that the mission is deployed. So if Azerbaijan agrees to expand the scope of the mission to the Azerbaijani side, we can talk about expansion, but we are certainly going only where we are invited. So we were invited by the government of Armenia, and that's why the EU monitoring mission or the EU monitors are deployed on the Armenian side of the border.
And it is the government of Armenia again that asked or requested the expansion of the EU mission, obviously again on the Armenian side of the border. And so do you see a prospect of the expansion? And what role could the Republic of Czechia play in bringing this about?
The mission, the EU mission is not operational fully. It's not fully operational yet, okay? So we can speak about an expansion on the Armenian side of the border only after the mission is fully operational, which will be very soon, but until we have 100% operational plan to be implemented and before the mission is fully operational, I don't think that it makes sense to speak about expansion.
I'd like to refer to your latest visit to Syunik region. You posted on FB photos of magnificent nature. Was it a visit out of touristic interest, which you're known for, or was it a sign of political support for the territorial integrity of Armenia, given Baku's aggressive intentions for the region of Syunik?
I mean, I came there for both, for work and for pleasure. I came there together with other EU ambassadors and the ambassador of the European Union to Armenia in the framework of a project, of a joint project that we call the EU for Syunik. And it's a bucket, basically. It's a bucket of several projects that EU member states, together with Switzerland, by the way, do in Syunik. So I visited the cities of Kapan and Goris together with other EU colleagues who participate in this EU project. The EU, together with the Czech Republic, sees the importance of focusing on Syunik, which is a region that, as you rightly pointed out, was heavily hit by the consequences of the war. So that's why we focus on Syunik. And I just wanted to spend some more time in that region.
You really like it?
And I didn't like it, I loved it actually. I loved it. It's a beautiful region that I'm really deeply impressed by. Beautiful places, very nice people, very nice sites and cities and so on and so on, and I am certainly coming back. So our focus on Syunik will continue, both professional, or my focus on Syunik will continue also on the personal level, and I will be certainly coming back.
To emphasize this, does the Czech Republic, together with the EU, support the territorial integrity of Armenia?
Of course. And actually, it was in Prague in October last year where the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan reaffirmed their commitment to the territorial integrity, both of Armenia and Azerbaijan.
However, despite the process and the international commitment to peace, what we see on the ground in Artsakh at least is that Armenians are in blockade for 6 months. There's a humanitarian crisis. Baku has been using various tools of ethnic cleansing, from gas, electricity cutoffs in the cold to shortage of food and medical care. Recently, they removed the pseudo-eco activists, replaced them with the checkpoint without an agreement from both sides, which makes the crisis graver. What is required in this situation is, first of all, an unequivocal stance of the international community on the humanitarian crisis in Artsakh, and second of all, a mission on the ground that would ensure the rights and security of the people in Artsakh. Now, I'd like to ask, what's the stance of the Czech Republic on the humanitarian situation? And secondly, what can the Republic of Czechia do to have a mission on the ground in Artsakh?
So first of all, what you're telling me is certainly not piece of news for me. We have been following very closely what is going on in that region, and we are working with all the information available. We have been also following very closely and very seriously the humanitarian situation in the region. I myself, I have met several times actually people from Nagorno-Karabakh. I've met students from there, and I've heard actually a lot about the situation there. And I myself, the Czech Republic, which I represent, as well as the European Union, have expressed on several occasions our concerns about the humanitarian situation. So the humanitarian situation we certainly follow closely, and is a serious topic for us. Secondly, the Czech Republic, together with the EU, has called several times also, by the way, in Prague as well. And there was a statement during the Czech EU presidency last year for ensuring the freedom and the safety of movement between Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia. So we have been active, and we have been raising this topic on every possible opportunity, both bilaterally. Our representatives, the Czech deputy minister, for example, recently he came to Armenia. He also went to Baku, and he was speaking about about the humanitarian situation, and he was speaking about the necessity to ensure a free and safe, secure movement. However, I would like to point out that Azerbaijan has its own concerns and interests, of course, that we as the European Union and we as the Czech Republic take into account as well. So it is a complicated story, actually, and it's a complicated situation.
Which is no excuse for creating a humanitarian crisis,
sure,
Mr. Ambassador.
It is certainly no excuse, and I said that we have been following the humanitarian situation very, very closely and carefully, and we have called on Azerbaijan on several occasions and several times to secure the communication.
How about the second part of the question on the mission, the possibility of starting with a fact-checking mission on the ground in Artsakh? Do you see a possibility of that?
I see a possibility under one condition, that there is an agreement on it. Again, just like the expansion of the EU monitoring mission, we are not going to send our monitors or our people, our troops or somewhere where if there is not an agreement. So if there's an agreement, a broader international agreement on a observing, as you said, or fact-finding mission, we are certainly not against it, and we will certainly not be the obstacle to that. By the way, Prime Minister Pashinyan spoke exactly about this topic with my Prime Minister, and he was assured that the Czech Republic will not block this. But it is not about the Czech Republic's decision. There must be a broader consensus on it, and the Czech Republic will be able and is willing to promote and actively support this idea within the EU and other international organizations.
Mr. Pirunčik, what can Armenia do on her side to become an even more valuable partner for the Republic of Czechia?
I think that you're doing actually pretty well. I just want to say that the Czech-Armenian relationship is very good, and the last visit of Prime Minister to the Czech Republic proved that there is a substance to the relationship between the Czech Republic and Armenia. We see and appreciate that Armenia is continuing with reforms in many fields and many spheres. We know that Armenia is a functioning democracy. We share the values of freedom, the human rights, and so on and so on and so on. The basic rights and the basic freedoms are shared both in Europe and in Armenia, and I think that this is actually a very good base to deepen and maybe broaden our cooperation. But I wouldn't change anything. And by the way, I mean, that's not my role to speak about what Armenia should do.
But there may be expectations.
We
should know in order to meet.
Yeah. I just said, we appreciate what Armenia is doing in reforms. We appreciate the the level and standards of democracy and democratic procedures. And of course, there is a guideline, so to say, or like a framework for that. It's called the SIPA, the Agreement between Armenia and the European Union on the partnership. And this is actually a recommendation as well, what to do with in which spheres, right? So if you want a guideline, the SIPA is one. But again, I wanted to stress that we appreciate what Armenia has achieved in the reforms in many fields and spheres.
Czech Republic can offer Armenia smart city technologies, cooperation in aviation. I know that Czech businessmen are about to arrive in Armenia to discuss the production of airplanes. I mean, Balus Tech Company, the production of airplanes will probably take place in Stepanovan, an Armenian city. What stage are the works on these projects and more?
You mentioned one of the particular projects that a particular Czech company does with particular Armenian companies. If I may, I'll just put it in a broader framework. The economic relationship, the economic ties between Armenia and the Czech Republic has seen a tremendous growth, actually, in the past month. Last year, the trade turnover between the Czech Republic and Armenia raised by 60%. Our export, actually, the Czech export to Armenia raised by some 160%. Okay, so the bilateral international trade is growing very fast, but there is still a potential. We, as the Czech Republic, see the biggest potential in fields like smart cities, particularly in energy, and even more particularly in nuclear energy. You may know that Czech companies have been working at the Metsamor nuclear power plant, and we are actually ready to even broaden the cooperation. You mentioned the airplane production that is in a rather progressed stage, actually, and we're happy to see that soon the planes will be really produced in that Balus factory, or in that factory that is a joint venture with the Czech company Balus. But also we do joint projects in agriculture. That's actually something that we shouldn't forget, as far as agriculture is still very important. And in Armenia, just last fall, several Armenian farmers actually came to the Czech Republic, and some joint projects are being implemented even there. And I will just mention two more fields that just took place, actually. We had a group of businessmen focusing on the mining industry, which is pretty important here in Armenia. So I expect this to be a potentially productive field as well. And 3 weeks ago, there were Czech companies that offer solutions for bakeries. And since Armenian pastry and Armenian bakeries are well known in the whole world, I mean, this is also quite an interesting potentially productive field of cooperation.
We're thriving, in a word.
Sorry?
We're thriving, in a word.
Yes, we are. We are. And we are certainly not only speaking about the potential, but we are doing our best to put the words into practice.
Thank you.
Thank
one
you
more
as
time.
well. Thank you as well. Pleasure.
The ambassador of Czech Republic to Armenia, Petr Pírunčík, sat down with the Public TV tonight.